Hi, Peter Sidgreaves. Welcome back. We've got a federal election coming up on the 21st of May between Albo and ScoMo. This will be interesting. And Albo stuffed up his first week. He forgot the unemployment rate was supposed to be 4%. How do you feel about that?
Look, certainly that first week, they're kind of basic things that I'd expect to get correct from any candidate for the Prime Minister. As a local member of the State Parliament, I certainly know what the unemployment rate is in New South Wales. So, and that's 3.7, which is the lowest on record. But I certainly don't know why a candidate for the federal election wouldn't know that.
And sad news, Kimberley Kitching died from the Labor government, and Albo was supposed to be addressing bullying that was going on from the Labor side as well, which was quite sad news. I was listening on Sky News Australia, and that's Melbourne, I think, is Kimberley Kitching.
Yeah, look, as a state MP, I think you're right, but no, look, that's disappointing. You don't want bullying on either side of politics, whether it be bullying, harassment, or any misconduct in such ways. But yeah, unfortunately, that was the Mean Girls story, and I don't think that's been correctly dealt with. And there were criticisms of Scott Morrison for potentially not dealing with some things coming his way. But yeah, certainly most recently, my view is that those things need to be dealt with straight away.
Yeah, and also too, we've been hearing with this election about this transgender debate in sport as well. It's kind of gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. Daniel Andrews was ridiculing the Prime Minister on his views about it, which was common sense. The transgender.
Yeah, from people I've been speaking to, there's a large soul majority, and they just don't. Not only those, there's also some former Australian athletes. We're talking about gold medal winning athletes or silver medal winning athletes in like Dawn Fraser and I've just gone blank on the other one, Raylene Boyle, where she was actually got a silver medal because of some of that East German doping at the time. So look, I certainly, in my view, is that it should be recorded based on what your gender is at the birth. Certainly you've got as a male, you've got other hormones running through your body, which do build bulk and power and speed and so forth. But look, not something I really want to get into. I don't know if it's necessarily an election campaign topic or not. But in any case, that's what's in front of us, and ultimately the people of Warringah will have their decision to make.
It's been disrespectful from the public, because I support the independents and the Liberal, how they ridicule the Prime Minister and slander him too, and the independents, Clive Palmer and all that. I feel I'm supporting the One Nation and Clive Palmer's, because I feel that if he can get the deposit for a mortgage to 3% interest, I'd really like that, because myself on the government disability pension, the bank won't give me a mortgage. And what's the other choice? To go to a mortgage broker, but they're charging 40% interest.
Yeah. Look, I certainly understand that it's very hard for young people or first-time home buyers to afford a deposit for a home. I absolutely understand that. But when the interest rates get for a mortgage get above 3%, ultimately it's every single taxpayer that's paying that difference in that mortgage. And I'm not certainly sure that's the best solution. I know from a state perspective, we're trying to increase housing supply. And by increasing housing supply, you'd expect to see that the actual prices will fall. And speaking to a couple of mates who are real estate agents in the local area, it's their belief that the market has now stalled, So that's not to say I won't go up again in the future, but the feeling is certainly that the housing market is cooling off, and that might bring some more real prices for housing. But as I said, as a state government, we're actually trying to increase the supply of housing, or like while we know Camden's going to grow, we're fast tracking a lot of that over in the Leppington area, with the intention of bringing that as house prices down.
Yeah, and it's there's the thing too called mortgage stress that's hitting Australian families, Peter. It's quite difficult. I've never experienced mortgage stress, but it's, we've got the inflation problem now. I think the war in Ukraine and the investment from Scott Morrison for the nuclear submarine as well. Mike Freelander says we should have an electric submarine. I don't know what the difference would be.
Well, I wouldn't claim to be a submarine expert and defence expert, and I don't think Mike Freelander could claim that either. So I would prefer to leave it to the experts, those in senior ranks in the ADF, and they would be the people who would be advising the Minister for Defence and also the Prime Minister. So I'd rather go with what the experts are saying than a paediatrician or myself who spent 20 years in IT.
No, it's good. I like to get your opinion on that too, because it's funded with taxpayers' money, Peter. Although Peter Dutton was saying we could be preparing for another World War III because of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Although the Putin's following the communist system, but they don't call themselves communists. It's quite sad what Russia is doing, because when they're invading countries, they're not very nice. No.
I think we touched on this last time. Look, my view on this is that for countries such as Britain, United States, and Australia, who have we're very fortunate to have the lifestyle we have. And if we can afford to defend the vulnerable, and that's my view, that we should be defending the vulnerable. I would imagine, again, I'm not getting briefings from any defence experts as a state newer, but this is a very careful game you got to play, because what's the possibility or the probability that Putin won't launch nuclear weapons, and that would be the greatest concern. Certainly, having said that, I think that there's precedents with Russia and Putin with regards to the Crimea and to Georgia, and I think that there's got to be a better strategy to actually ensure that we're providing the right support to vulnerable countries like Ukraine, as we are at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting how this has all started. There's a new vaccine for COVID that was made in France as well. I know Russia's got their vaccine Sputnik 5, but the Australian government won't recognise that. That was just quite interesting, Peter. Vaccine mandates, I think people are fed up with vaccine mandates, I've noticed. People seem to get COVID even having your booster shot too.
Oh, no, certainly. I mean, I can say from personal experience, I would say that I was in a home, almost reverse isolating, because 4 of my family of 6 all had got COVID. But I came through that without catching COVID. So what I would say is, at that point in time, I was fully vaccinated. And 2 weeks earlier, I had my booster. So I was kind of at the optimum time in terms of vaccination. So, look, I don't know whether we will return to, nothing's ever been mandatory, but it's been highly encouraged. But I don't think necessarily we will return to that. Yes, we'd like to see people continuing to get either vaccinated or having their boosters as per the health recommendations. But, that's ultimately, at this point in time, that's a decision for a personal decision for everybody.
Exactly.
I just hope that they would take into consideration their community around them, their family around them, their community around them. If they take that into consideration, potentially their decision, and it is their decision, changes.
We saw too cancel culture and shadow bannings going on with tech companies. It's happened to me, Peter, because I'm a supporter of the right wing and a supporter of freedom of speech, and it's like these tech companies just shutting, like, make you non-existent. I was reading in the Sydney Morning Herald, and I don't know why they're getting away with this, Peter.
Look, I certainly know that, as much as probably anyone would know, because it's been in the media, certainly about Facebook and so forth, and other social media companies that that you could say that they're being far too intrusive, and I know that the federal government has tried to deal with that on a couple of occasions, and to some extent have been successful. But then there's other extents where we haven't been so successful, where they'll disconnect media for us and so forth. So look, I just think that we've got to keep encouraging, keep speaking to these organisations, these large multimedia organisations that are harvesting our data, and that they should be doing it with the privacy of their customers in mind. Just like Service New South Wales, the app that we use, that's the approach that we take. So certainly in my view, that whether it be Google, Facebook, or any other social media giant, or any other organisation that are IT organisations that are harvesting data, that there should be a privacy principle that actually protects all of that.
Exactly. There's other services I've chosen to use called Rumble, and there's a Twitter alternative I've got called Mastodon. I know Donald he's trying to start what's called Truth Social. So I'm always looking for alternatives, Peter, to get my work out there.
Yeah, no, and that, while that's great, it's difficult when you've got so many people on other platforms, where you'll have potentially a wider audience. So it depends on what you want to use those platforms for. You'll probably find that that people will diversify what platforms they're using rather than actually move from one platform to another.
Yeah, promote my work at the podcast is what I'll be doing.
Yep, good on you. Yep.
And that's all I can do, because I've been fed up with this shadow banning, because it gets frustrating, Peter. I do all this hard work, and then it's like I don't exist.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge that. So, and sometimes I could say the same about my role. I do all this hard work, and often it doesn't get out to to the people that you want it to get it out to. So it's all right. We just keep plugging away and getting out and about in the community, from my perspective, and not always. You can't solely rely. Well, I certainly can't. Maybe your type of business you could, but I certainly can't survive just on social media. I need to get out and about and see people, and that's what I've been doing a lot in the month of April without Parliament sitting.
Other than that, Angus Taylor's been in the Sydney Morning Herald a bit, and he was on Sky News with the Prime Minister campaigning. Now, if he can reduce carbon emissions and try and reduce electricity prices, that would be a blessing for families, Peter. Because I know the government's trying to push solar panels as well. How do you feel about that?
Oh, look, I think certainly for the benefit of not only the environment but the community, I think we need to find sustainable ways of providing renewable energy, and we also have to remember at the same time that we have existing organisation structures that aren't necessarily offsetting their carbon and so forth, but there are a lot of organisations that because the market is now growing, and it's far more affordable than it was 10 years ago, I think there are already organisations that are making that shift to be at least net zero emissions by a certain target. and I don't recall who it was. I read one on the weekend who was another organisation that had announced that it was their goal, and we're seeing more and more of that. And that can only be a good thing as far as I'm concerned. So as an economic conservatist, we want to leave the financial position of our country, our state, in a great position for our next generation. And why don't we have the same view for the environment and climate change for the benefit of our next generation, future generations. So, and that's what I strongly feel, that what we're doing as a state government, when we're building roads, we're building it for not just this generation, we're building it for future generations. And and that's I think a holistic view across the New South Wales Parliament.
Yeah, it's interesting, this election, Peter, and hopefully ScoMo wins and can continue as Prime Minister. We saw in South Australia, Stephen Marshall, he resigned, and now it's the Labor's Premier in South Australia. You know what I found? The Labor Party has always done what they call the popularity campaign, is how they've won elections. The only good Labor Prime Minister was Bob Hawke. I was a kid. I don't know how Labor do this, why they're able to be more popular than the Liberals for some reason.
Well, it's all well and good come out and say you're going to actually deliver things. What I would say is I'd judge them on their record rather than what they're saying. So you talk about at a state level, they mentioned they're going to build the South West Railway, right? The rail link from Glenfield to Leppington, right? They didn't do it, right? It took the New South Wales Liberal government to do that. So now they're complaining about the link from Glenfield to the Bradfield, which is the old Aerotropolis core. Well, how are they going to do that if they hadn't been built the link from Glenfield to Leppington in the first place? So I just don't, from a state perspective, I'd say probably the same in federal, but as I say, my focus is state, is that you can listen to what they say, but I'd be judging them on their track record.
How do you feel about, we'll go to the independents, the One Nation and Mark Latham. Now, they're not supporting either of the two governments, but they do want to do good for the country as well. How do you feel about the independents?
Oh, look, I'd always say that the independents have their place, and in the same way that in the state, or the federal, the Labor opposition have their place. If we want to have a good government, we need people to hold us to account, and that's what is happening in both the federal and the state, and that'll only bring about better policies, better changes. So I have no problem with that. What we want to do as a government is represent not only our own constituents, but represent the best for New South Wales, and in the federal case, the best for Australia.
Yeah, Peter, this was a great episode with you today as well. Always love having you on the podcast and getting an idea of what you have as a local MP, how things can improve. What's happening for you? What have you got planned for yourself?
Look, we're at the moment, we're just it's business as usual. Certainly, maybe out on the weekends and so forth, I might be out helping the federal campaign at the moment, but we're back into Parliament, next week. So at the moment, my focus is on just business as usual, whether it be, preparing for Parliament in different ways, committees, potentially bills to speak on, but also looking after the residents of the Camden electorate. So, as I said in April, I was getting out and about because it was a great opportunity to do that without the interruption of Parliament. And I did that and went out and met a lot of new people, just to try and without trying to interfere with the federal campaign. Look, things are looking really positive in Camden, and I'll just keep plugging away until, at this point, until we start campaigning for our election. But there's a lot more to be done, a lot more that can be done, and I'll just keep, looping in ministers when I need their assistance to get things achieved. But in terms of my electoral commitments, look, all of mine have been delivered. Some have been exceeded. So I'm working on both getting the Gregory Hills Public School built and open, and also getting the Ora Park Fire Station open, which construction has started, which is great to see. And then certainly something that hasn't been an electoral commitment, but trying to get a new high school for the growth areas of Gregory Hills, Gledswood Hills, and Emerald Hills in Leppington. So those types of targets are now on my view, and that'll continue through the course of this year. As well as a few other things that I'd like to see happen, prior to we go into the next state election in March next year.
Yeah, good on you, Peter. Hopefully you stay as the MP.
Thank you.
Keep doing the great work you do as well.
Yep.